Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and all the way from Australia, he's with me. I am telling you, you're going to love him. Rael Bricker. He has written a book called Dive In. And you go, what? Dive In? Wait. Listen to this title, secondary title. Lessons Learned Since Business School. Here's the deal, folks. Rael has 2 master's degrees, one in engineering, and he's got an MBA, right? And you go, golly, that guy is really, really smart. But let me tell you where his genius is. It is the lessons that he learns after school that are the most valuable. And those are the lessons that he's going to teach you and I today on this show, talking about really practical things to help you kind of get your mindset right, get your actions right, get your culture right, all sorts of things to help you and your business grow and become all that you want it to be. And also, folks, if you're thinking, hey, well, you know what, I'm on the fence about being an entrepreneur. Here's the thing: he is a serial entrepreneur. He knows a lot about success. He would probably tell you he also knows a little bit about failure too. So here's the thing: he's going to join us in just a few minutes. But before we get to him, let's do what we do every week, right? And we walk you through the 4 areas of your life, and we focus in on your training in these 4 areas: physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Here's the deal. Folks, you and I both know we're not static. If you know yourself at all, you know that if we're not growing, we're dying. And the truth is, if you're not taking care of your body physically or mentally or emotionally and spiritually, the fact is you're losing it. That's just the truth, right? So we need to be in constant training to keep ourselves on top of our game physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So here's how it works. You rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being my training is not good at all, 10 being, oh my gosh, my training is outstanding, okay? 5 being average. So here's how it works. So physically, how would you rate yourself, when it comes to eating right, exercise, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep? How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, right? All right, whatever that number is, it's okay. All right, don't panic if you say I'm a 3. It's all right. That's just your starting place, right? We just want to know, okay, if that's your number, how do we get to the next number? How do I get to a 4? If you're an 8, congratulations. That's awesome. You know what? Can you get to an 8.5? What can you do? What can you tweak to get to an 8.5? All right. All right. So you got your first number. That's your physical number. Second number is the mental number, right? We have 2 halves of the brain, right? We have a right and a left, hemispheres of our brain, and they do different things, right? Our right side is our creative side. It's what ideas, and we kind of like to think about in terms of words and sounds and music, right? Left side's more logical, right? It's numbers, right? It's order, right? And we kind of work both halves of the brain, right? So I like to tell people, you know what, you just can't do Sudokus, right? You're going to have to do some crossword puzzles too, right? If you want to balance out both halves of the brain. But the truth is, there are a number of ways that we can be an active participant in our mental growth, right? One of those ways is read a book. Read a book. I don't know, dive in. It's not a long book, actually, but it's filled with a lot of great, great tips, right? Read a book. Take up a musical instrument. Here's one: learn a foreign language, right? Right? Learn a new language. Can work both sides of your brain. The point is, don't be sitting on a couch, being a couch potato and letting things come at you. Matter of fact, I think Rael would say to me, dive in, do something, right? Is what he would say to you, right? All right, so that you got your second number, right? Your mental number. Third number is your emotional number. 2 areas we look at here, right? A lot of people talk emotional quotients, emotional intelligence. We're going to break that down into 2 very simple ways. How well are you able to control your emotions under stress and pressure, and when you're tired, and when you're hangry, right? How well are you able to control your emotions? And the second part is, how well, and Rael really does talk about this, how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of others? He says in his book, and I'm going to paraphrase what he says, but the truth is that your people are so important. But you know what? Your people are only as important as how you listen to them and understand them. And that's what I pulled from his book. You really have to be able to listen. Matter of fact, he has this reverse pyramid that he talks about that really, if you want to talk about culture, it really starts from the bottom up, right? That means it starts with your people, right? It's really, really, we're going to get to that. I promise you we will. So what's your number emotionally, All right, you got that? Finally, spiritually. And you go, I'm not really spiritual, Jay. We're all spiritual. Sorry, move the physical, mental, emotional. You're spiritual. You know, the fact of the matter is we all live by faith. You have no idea if the sun's going to come up tomorrow. We just believe that it is, right? That's faith, right? We make plans for our future. That's faith, right? We all believe that, you know, there's something that brings us back to peace or centeredness, right? Whatever that is, that's spiritual, right? For some people, it's God. For some people, it's nature. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's something else. It comes down to two questions. Is it working for you? And if it's not, what do you need to do to change it? And then how can you keep developing it, right? How can you keep growing in that area? So what number would you give yourself? Those four numbers are like the legs of a chair. If the legs of the chair are uneven over the course of time, you know what happens is you get bad posture. At the same token, if the legs of the chair are too low, what happens is you cannot sit at a normal table and be able to eat the nutrition that you need physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And speaking of somebody who's got his legs together, his name is Rael Bricker. He started 6,000 feet underground to starting an education business. And he grew to have over 4,000 students in his education business. And he spent years working in venture capital. He's seen it all. At least that's what he says. He's listed companies in 2 international stock exchanges, and his financial services group has settled more than, do I have this right, Rael? $3 billion?
$3 billion in mortgages, yeah.
In mortgages in 18 years. He has a tremendously diverse work history. It's amazing. And he's got more than 25 countries he's been, as a matter of fact. He's got over 30 years as a serial entrepreneur. He helps businesses succeed by delivering a series of dynamic talks on building businesses by thinking outside the box. You know how I feel about my fellow speakers. Folks, this is our business. Hire him. He's really, really good. He's presented for many years on business culture, finance, investing, diversity, and ethics. He's absolutely outstanding. He holds 2 master's degrees that I've already talked to you about, software engineering and an undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. And he's got his MBA. He is the first inspirationalist in Australia with Integris Global and a mentor with both mentored with Mark Boris and Mastermind Space. He's also the author of this great book called Dive In, Lessons Learned Since Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Rael Bricker. And Rael Bricker, welcome to A New Direction.
Thank you very much, Jay. Happy to be here. Good morning for me. Good evening for you. And depending on where we are in the world.
We are, isn't it? You know what's so awesome, you know, because for those of you, by the way, for those of you who are watching on DBNA TV, which if you have a Roku device or Fire device, you can watch this show on DBNA TV. And what's beautiful, what we do now is, you know, we can now have these conversations face to face, even though he's in half a world away from me. And it is 7 a.m. You're in Perth, Australia, right?
I'm in Perth, west coast of Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, west coast. And of course, here in the east coast of the US. And it's so neat that we can do a show like this where we can be on opposite ends of the world. So it's Thursday morning there. It's Wednesday evening here. And so we're doing that. And so, Rael, first of all, I want to just jump right into the book because I really did enjoy the book. So let's just, you know, I was going to start with chapter 1, which is change is good. Take on the challenge. Matter of fact, let's start there because we are pretty resistant to change. And oftentimes when we see change, we don't see it as a challenge. We have to have a mind shift set there, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, I guess my late father gave me probably the best advice. And he never got to live it. And this was his philosophy. I mean, he died, he was 59. I'm 58 at the moment. So I have, you know, listening to your 4 pillars in the start, it resonates with me because I work on all 4 of those because I'm sort of haunted by the fact that my father died when he was 59. But what he said to me was, he said that one day when he retires, he wants to have 40 years experience, not 1 year 40 times over. And there's I think it was Diane Ackerman, the quotes in my book, who said that when she dies one day, she wants to have lived the breadth and the depth of her life. Okay. And so for me, that's about change. That's about that you can't. I got talking to someone who works at a bank, because I have a financial services business, and he said he'd been at the bank 32 years and he was expecting to be there another 10 and then he would retire. I could not in my wildest dreams fathom being in the same organization for 40 years. It's just because my whole life is about change. I mean, the book, the title, and you commented on it. It's called Dive In, and then Lessons Learned Since Business School. So why the title Dive In? Well, there are a few reasons to it. The first is that I got this revelation while doing triathlons about change and about the way I felt about things. But more importantly, there's a line on the back of the book that says sometimes you just have to dive in and adjust your course while you're moving. And for me, that summarizes change. I get all these entrepreneurs and I get lots of wannabe entrepreneurs coming to me. I know you want to explore this idea of entrepreneurship a bit later, but they come to me and they say, I'm on to spreadsheet number 27, and it tells me that maybe I shouldn't do this business. I'm going, you're 26 spreadsheets too many into that. It's just unfathomable. Sometimes you just have to dive in and adjust your course. Now, yes, you may have to put food on the table, and you're too scared to leave your full-time job and go out there, and that's okay too. The world has also changed to people being able to do 3 days of work and 2 days of their own stuff, or finding themselves, or there's lots of opportunities in the world today to change, to do things, to make change. But for me, change is what we thrive on. I have the attention span of a flea, and the goldfish in the bowl. It swims around and says, "Wow, that's a rock. Wow, that's a rock. Wow, that's a rock." Okay, that's sometimes what I feel like. I'll get to that rock again and go, let's do something else today. And I think that's for me. Often we get a crisis in business, and the crisis is we have to change. I mean, in financial services in Australia, the last 10 years, we have been beaten around the head by every possible government department, trying to create a name for themselves, trying to tell the consumer that the mortgage brokers are horrible, they're going to rip you off, and you need to be aware of them, and you need to do this and do that. And lots of brokers I know, particularly of my era, decided to leave the industry because they couldn't handle the change. And for me, I actually pulled that back to something quite simple. I said, yes, there's all these changes going around, and regulators are changing things, and new paperwork, and new this and new that. But if you stick to in our business, we stuck to our core, which was good customer service, good customer outcomes, great experiences, customer walking away with the keys, the bucket of keys for their new house, and 5-star Google ratings, and occasionally you get a bad one. That's okay too. But we stuck to our core game and embraced the change rather than those who went to fight it. And I think we've been successful because we've embraced that change.
There's a really good point there, because what happens is so often is we let our circumstances dictate what we're going to do. And what you did there was, okay, there's going to be new regulations, but it doesn't alter the fact that you can still give great customer service, or that you can give them a great customer experience, that you're going to treat people with ultimate respect and dignity, and that you're going to treat your people well. I mean, all of those things still, just because you've got these regulations doesn't change, right, how you're going to go about doing business. It's whether you're going to embrace that or not. Right?
Absolutely. Kodak, classic example. Kodak's a very well-known example of, until they changed their mindset of being in the film business, then they went bankrupt. Right. And then suddenly they emerged as one of the best high-quality printing companies in the world, right, using old technology, new technology, and today they're a force to be reckoned with again.
Yeah, I think that's a mindset that we've got to react to. Chapter 2, tips and traps, a bird's eye view, and these are really kind of an outline of all the chapters. Is kind of how I read this. So
what happened is my very, very first professional speaking engagement. after the story of, of training. I'd been speaking for many years about mortgages and finance. And then I'd had 2 cardiac stents while training for a marathon and focused me on what I want to do. And I'd sold $1 billion of mortgages from stage. So I love being on stage. My first professional speaking gig was at a mortgage conference. And I had no idea what I was talking about. And so I said, there's 10 tips for starting, for building a successful mortgage business. And that was the core of what the book became. So that chapter 2 is really those 10 tips that I used. Interestingly, it showed how immature I was as a speaker at the time, because I was trying to do 10 tips in an hour or 55 minutes, which is crazy in and of itself, because you're just using a clicker and flicking through slides. Now, I mean, if I'm preparing an hour's talk, I may cover 4 points, if not 3 in that hour.
Right.
And so it shows how immature I was as a speaker. But yes, that is the core. Those were when I had to sit down and say what made my mortgage business successful. Those were the 10, and general business successful. Right. Those are the points I used.
Yeah, that's so funny. When I was speaking after my first book, I remember I was speaking on it, and somebody came to me afterward because I had so many slides. They said, you do know, right, that you're like giving us information from a fire hose, right? Because it was just so much information. And you're so right. You don't need that much because we're talkers, right? You and I are talkers, and that's kind of what we do. It's part of how we make a living. And so that's very funny because I relate to that 100%. Well, let's do a few of these here, right? Let's talk about the first one. Never ask staff to do anything you would not do. Now, we hear that statement a lot, Rael, where we hear people will say, I never ask my people to do what I would not do. But what do we really mean when we say that? Because right? Because there is a little bit of a caveat here, maybe.
Well, yeah. So I mean, what it means is to follow the entrepreneurial journey to put it into a context. The entrepreneur starts a business because they're passionate about selling widgets, whatever it is, right? Whatever the entrepreneur's business that they're starting is. Today, it wouldn't be a physical product. It would be NFTs or something else like that. But they start a business because they're passionate about solving a problem generally. And so that's what they do. But when you start a business, you don't go out and employ 10 staff. You do everything yourself, right?
Right.
And as you then employ staff, generally, as you then employ staff, you slowly delegate those tasks to the staff. But I've seen too many businesses fail where somebody said, I've got a brilliant idea. I'm going to do X, but I don't know anything about it. But I'm just going to hire the best people to do it. Now, the challenge with that is, A, you're beholden to the people in the team, and B, if the person is sick or whatever or leaves you, you're stuck because you're tied to that particular person. So that's on a broad level philosophy. On a practical philosophy, and I'll use a particular example. The men's toilets always smell, right? I don't know what it is with men, but the men's toilets, the urinals always have a smell. And so we moved into these offices 13 years ago. And I went into the bathrooms after we'd been here about a week, and I went, this does not smell good. So I got my PA to order these smelly ball things that go in the urinals just to make the place smell better. They arrived, and I took out a glove because they smell on your hands, so you don't really want to deal with them, right? I took out a glove, I took out the bucket, and I walked around and I called all the guys in the office. Said, come to the men's toilets. I want to show you something. It sounded bad at the time, but you can't interpret that in a different way, right? So I said, come to the toilets, took this bucket, took a couple of these with this rubber glove, dropped them in the urinals. I said, now guys, this sits in that cupboard in the kitchen. When you walk in here and you smell that it doesn't smell so good, go to the kitchen, the box of rubber gloves is there. Go and get this bucket and put them in the urinal. I've only had to do it once in 13 years since then. Because I showed the team that I wasn't afraid to do it and that I was happy to do it. And so that's where, on a really practical level, it's not like, a lot of guys I know, they get to the corner office and they forget about their roots.
Right.
That's the problem. Company I was consulting to in South Africa, I asked the board of directors, who were made up of fourth generation business owners. So, they were fourth generation. I had some doubts about the business making a fifth generation because of some attitude of fourth generation directors. And so, great grandparents had started the businesses. But I said to them, where's the logistic problem in your business? And they said, in distribution. They were distributing high value, low quantity items, so watches.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, so have you ever asked the guy in the warehouse packing your goods if there's a better way of handling the goods? He said, no, we don't go into the warehouse. I went, okay, well, here's the first problem. I said, the second problem is, how do you get feedback of, is there a better way? And he said, well, we rely on our supervisors to do that. And I said, when did the supervisors last give you feedback? They said they never do. I said, well, okay, so here's the problem. You're relying on people who don't give you feedback, so you don't know if there's a better way. I said, it's going to take you weeks because you've never done this, or months.
Right.
But every Friday, so as a business principal in my group, in my financial services group, every Friday I put out a credit card on the table. They go and order lunch from somewhere, and we all sit around the table and have lunch together on a Friday on my credit card. And that's been a great experience for the team. So I said to this guy, take your lunch down, and I said, don't make it a fancy packed lunch, because this was South Africa. The majority of the workforce from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, mostly black, earning not a lot of money. I said, don't take down fancy wrap, take down a basic sandwich. Go down to the workshop, the warehouse at lunchtime, and go and say to the staff, can you sit with them and talk to them? I said, don't wear a jacket, don't wear a tie. Open neck shirt, preferably a t-shirt, or even a fluoro vest, which is what they wear in the jacket in the distribution. I said, go and talk to them. I said, the first week they won't talk to you, but start asking them, tell me about your family, tell me about this, tell me about that. I said, and then after week 2 or 3, start asking them about, is there a better way to do their jobs? And you know what? About 2 months later, they called me, because I was back in Australia, but then I'd been to South Africa to consult to them. And they said, you know what? We've improved our process 100%.
Wow.
Just because we actually went down there. We didn't go and pack boxes, but after the staff got so excited to tell us, they took us into the warehouse and they showed us the system. They showed us what they thought was better. And I sat there and I said, you're right. If we handle it this way and this way, it makes a whole lot more sense. So it's a variation on the idea of not asking staff to do anything you wouldn't do. But I had to get these directors from a point of, we're fourth generation business owners. We don't dirty our hands in the warehouse, to let's actually go and dirty our hands in the warehouse to find a better way of doing business.
His name is Rael Bricker. The book is entitled Dive In, Lessons Learned Since Business School. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, let me first of all just say Hint Water is the water, the official beverage of DB&A TV, and we are so grateful to Kara Golden, who owns Hint, and for them for being they're the water folks, right? And so we wanted to say thank you to them. Listen, I have 2 personal sponsors. One is Epic Physical Therapy. People from all over the world literally come down. Professional athletes from all over the world come to Epic Physical Therapy to get treated, but they also will treat people like me, just everyday people. You know what? They're absolutely outstanding. The fact of the matter is they're interested in my goals, getting to me where I want to be. And you know what? They do that because they are the professionals. When you're ready for your epic relief, epic recovery, and epic results, don't look any further. Look at Epic Physical Therapy. That's epicpt.com, EPICPT.com. And Linda Kraft and Team Realtors for more than 35 years. She's been at the top of her game. She has helped people all over the world because she is independently owned and operated, not affiliated with a national company, which allows her to help you find the best professional in your area, regardless of where you live. Listen, the markets are tough all over. She understands that. She started her business when interest rates were 18%. So she knows who the best people are in your area. So when you're ready to get started on your home journey, start with Linda Craft and Team Realtors. That's lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction, and I'm with my friend Rael Bricker, and I can say that because we're Facebook friends too, but no, we're really friends. So I love what you do there. I thought tip number 3, because I have forgotten about blue ocean strategies, but tip number 3, you have find the blue ocean and swim in it, and you have this in parentheses, work smarter, not harder. Talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so interestingly, the name of the book, Dive In, and I've got to go back to that. How did the name come in? The name of the book came in because I was standing on the shore doing my first triathlon, standing there as a 49-year-old in a pink bathing cap. Now, and I'm not built like an athlete. I'm in Australia, they'd call me a big unit. All right. I mean, I played sport at state level. I played hockey. That's the round ball, not the flat thing. That's field hockey. Field hockey.
Yes. I wondered about that, because in the book I was like going, I didn't know South Africans played hockey. Yeah.
No, we play field hockey, and I didn't realize after I published it that I never defined what hockey was. So anyway, anyway, I stood on the bank, and so I played state level hockey for a couple of years. I then broke my kneecaps and I didn't play for a number of years. I actually play again now in my 50s. I play at Masters over 50 level, but I was standing on this beach doing this triathlon, and I was looking out at the ocean, and I had this epiphany that I'd never actually done a competitive swim in the ocean. Okay, I had only ever swum in a swimming pool where there's a black line down the bottom, and you turn nicely at 50 meters, and you come back the other way, and I suddenly had this like, oh my God, what do I do now? And so my first triathlon, I went in with the masses, and I was being kicked in the head, and my goggles were coming off, and I was kicking people behind me. And I popped my head up for a second in the middle of this red ocean, as they call it. And I went, but what? I'm not here to win. I'm here just to survive. I'm here to finish this triathlon. And so you don't always have to win in business. Sometimes it's just about not necessarily surviving, but you can thrive by not competing directly with everyone. And I said, why don't I swim 2 meters to the left, and then there's no one in front of me because everyone's competing to get to that buoy, right, that point, and then turn around and come back that way. And I went, hang on a second. What happens if I swim 2 meters out? Then I'm in clear water. And that was the blue ocean. That is exactly what they spoke about in that book, Blue Ocean Strategies. It is that you don't have to be in this red ocean where everyone's kicking your goggles off. You know, you sometimes just go in the blue ocean. And so that was what I did in my triathlons. That's how I finished all the triathlons, relatively unscathed. But that was where that idea came from, about finding your blue ocean. Years ago when I started the education, in fact, before we even started the education business, when we were consulting, which in and of itself is a whole story, our 26-year-olds thought we could teach the world how to run their businesses, but we'd never run a business. So, but we discovered there was a professor from Harvard, whose name slips me at the moment, who had a concept called functional benchmarking. And what is functional benchmarking? It's the same idea as this blue ocean. It says you don't have to compete. If your business is, the store down the road selling T-shirts, whatever it is, you don't have to compete directly and try and model your business on the big retailer, okay? You might find that there's a particular aspect of your business, and so I've modified the whole blue ocean idea as well, that says you don't have to find a whole blue ocean for your business. Just go out there and find aspects of your business. So when he spoke about functional benchmarking, if you wanted at the time when he wrote his books to find out who had the best billing system in the world, it was American Express. Had the most sophisticated system in the world. So phone American Express. Bizarrely, this is what he spoke about 35 years ago, and said, say to them, I'd like to come and talk to your IT guys about your system so that I can model my business or that aspect of my business on your system. And that's what functional benchmark is. He said, measure yourself against somebody unrelated to your business, but they have the best of the day in their class. Don't try and model yourself on the best in your business overall. And that's exactly what finding your blue ocean is about. It's about just finding that lane in which you can travel where you're special.
But you did something in the book, though, that I thought was really very blue ocean. And that is when you were marketing on a shoestring budget, you found places to market your business that other people weren't using.
Yeah. Well, we did the same in mortgages actually as well. So going back to the education business, we sat down one day, my business partner and I, and he, I have to credit, was probably the marketing driver. I was the business driver of the business. But we sat down one day, and I don't know, we used to get the newspaper every day because there was no, very little in South Africa in those days. It wasn't even much on TV. And we get the newspaper every morning, arrive in the office. And one day we were sitting there having lunch, and the newspaper was flipped over, and on the back page of what they called the Today section was the TV guide for that night. And we looked at each other and said, how many people, there's no internet, there's no like go on your phone and see what's on TV tonight. And we said, bet you everybody takes the newspaper, because everyone got a newspaper, right, and that's the page they look at. And on the bottom of that page was editorial. So we approached the newspaper and said, can we advertise on that strip underneath the TV guide? Because that's what we figured people, particularly parents now. So our target in education was parents and households. Why don't we advertise there? And they went, well, no one's ever asked us. So we said, give us a good price. And they did. And so we dominated that space. And then it became a proper advertising space for the newspaper. But because we had pioneered it, they gave us what was called standby rates. So instead of 5,000 Rand, I think it was, a day, they would charge us 1,000, and they'd literally call us the night before and say, we've got an opening tomorrow. Do you want it on standby rates? And so we looked much bigger than we were because we were paying 1,000 instead of 5,000 for this advertising. But we absolutely pioneered that space. In the mortgage business, same thing. In Australia at the time, there used to be this is 20 years ago, 18 years ago, used to be a magazine that every realtor in the state would have as a free copy outside their offices. And it used to be a free magazine called The Home Buyer. And every week it would sit out there and every week be replaced. And we looked at it as well and said, everybody walks past this realtor's office and the front cover of the magazine is sitting there. There's no advertising on the front cover. So we said, we went to the paper, the newspaper called Home Buyer, and said, can we advertise on the strip on the bottom of your page? And they went, no one's ever asked us. So we said, well, fine, give us a price. This was deja vu. Same thing we did, 10 years before. And I say we, because my partner from South Africa that had started the education business, I sold out a lot earlier than he did. I came to Australia, and then a number of years later, he came to Australia, and we went into business again. And so he joined me in the mortgage business for about 6 years, and then he went out into do other things. But so when I say we, it was the same team.
Right.
And we pioneered this space. And for years, no one actually followed us, which was kind of bizarre. That none of the big boys with big budgets jumped on it. But hey, you've got to take your opportunities.
Well, this is the point that I think that people need to listen to. You may be on a shoestring budget, but there are places, if you have a little bit of an imagination, a little bit of creativity, and you have a little bit of drive, right? You can actually find blue ocean places where there's nobody in the ocean, to actually market your business and actually have a place that you could be successful. That was the beauty. That was a big one for me in this book, because I kept thinking to myself, you know what? We get so narrow-minded into thinking I have to be in this magazine, or I got to be in this paper, or I got to be in this digital space. And there is so much digital space out there. And we're probably not taking advantage of some very easy digital places that we're not even thinking. And you know what? Because so many people are moving to digital, we're probably missing the opportunity to be in print for a lot less money now. So, I mean, I just found that to be really refreshing, because I mean, you guys even put posters on posts, wherever you could put posters. I mean, I just think that we just sometimes lack that creativity, and we're just not thinking creative enough. And I loved that very much about what you did there. Let's move to tip number 4. It's called people, and people are critical to any business. And you kind of talked about that in tip 1, never ask your staff. But there is something very, very important about making sure that we're taking care of our people, isn't it?
I mean, my average longevity in the mortgage business at the moment is 9.5 years. That staff have been with me. The longest has been 16 years. I have my new PA has only been here about 8 months, but she replaced my previous PA who decided not to come back to work after having baby. And she'd been here 7 or 8 years at the time. So I've created this longevity of staff. I've created a culture of it, and it is critical. It is all about the people. I worry more about the people and the people in the organization than I do about. I know that if I treat my people well, they'll treat my customers well. That's quite simple. Kennedy, and this is not a political comment because it doesn't matter what side of politics you're on. Right. Kennedy went to visit NASA in 1962. There's a classic story of him seeing a guy sweeping very vigorously in the passage. And so he went up to him and spoke to him and said, "Are you sweeping vigorously because I'm here, the president?" He said, "No." He said, "So why are you sweeping so vigorously?" And the guy said, "Because I'm doing my bit to get a man on the moon." Mm. And I just thought that epitomizes how you want your team to be. You want your team to go, it's not about me. There's that old classic, there's no I in the word team. Well, yeah, but it's not about me. It's what can we do to make this organization better. I talk a lot about excellence as a speaker today. Why excellence? Because excellence means that we as individuals and our business shows up as the best version of itself every day. That doesn't happen without the people.
You know what's interesting about that story, that John F. Kennedy story, which I found so interesting, and you actually kind of allude to it in the book, is that person who was sweeping the floor, right? The janitor who was sweeping the floor, he really embraced his why. I know that what I'm doing here is bigger than just sweeping a floor, right? He knew that if he kept things clean, that made things more efficient, and that allowed them to do more things without having to worry about dust and things getting into the systems and things like that. He understood his why. And I think, you kind of allude to this with your people, is it's kind of this thing of you have to get your people to really, and you got to work with them to know why they do what they do. That seems to be fundamentally important throughout this book.
Oh, absolutely. It is about values. It's about purpose. A lot of companies stick up on the wall a statement of values or a mission statement or a whatever. And I actually stand on stage often and I'll go, you know what, I'll bet you everyone in this room, I can tell you what your mission statement of your business is. And they go, "Oh, wow, have you got a magnificent memory?" And I go, "No, because your mission statement is going to say something like, we are going to do the best, open brackets, software, hardware, blah, 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 in the so-and-so industry, using the best people technology." And they go, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is." And I go, "Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything because everybody says it on their wall." It comes down to the purpose, the why of the business. What's its raison d'etre, as they say in French? What makes that business tick? And then a lot of that is the heartbeat of the owner, the entrepreneur, the founder. But a lot of it is just down to simple buying into what the business delivers. What problem are we solving for clients? And are we happy solving that problem?
That's beautiful. His name is Rael Bricker. The book is entitled Dive In, Lessons Learned Since Business School. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Folks, I talk about them often, right? Epic Physical Therapy. Listen, they have Their facilities, I should say, offers the most advanced top of the line equipment. The anti-gravity, the Ultra G treadmill, the Normatec compression sleeves, game ready, which I love. But listen, they're certified in the most cutting edge treatments available, like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. That's just a few. Look, when you're ready for your epic relief, your epic recovery, your epic results, don't look any further. Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com, and Linda Kraft and Team Realtors. I talk about her a lot. It's because for more than 35 years, she's been on top of her game. And you know what her clients say about her? She's a legend of customer service. Legend, right? Why is she a legend? Because she understands that it's more than just buying or selling a home. She understands that the relationships that you have with your home, and you do have a relationship with your home, are of primary importance to you. And she wants to be part of that relationship with you because she understands that relationships are the most powerful thing that we have. So listen, when you want to partner up with a real estate professional and their team that is interested in you and what you need and what you want, start with Linda Kraft and Team Realtors. You can learn more by going to lindakraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. Hey, folks, don't forget about Hint Water, right? Hey, Hint Water. I've got strawberry kiwi right here. It is the official water of DBNA TV. So if you're watching us on Roku or Fire Stick devices, get yourself some Hint Water. And we're back here on A New Direction with Rael Bricker. And we are talking about Dive In, right, is the name of the book, Lessons Learned Since Business School. And we're talking about some of Rael's top 10 tips. And one of the things, I'm going to combine two tips because they seem to be opposed to each other. And I want you to kind of help us decipher these, right? So have a relaxed office environment, which is tip 5. But tip 6 is have a serious office culture. So help us negotiate how we have a relaxed office environment, but have a serious office culture, how those two, because it seems like oil and water, I think, when people hear that, but you have a way of working this out.
I mean, so, and I'll use the mortgage business, but any business can apply like this. So it is about the fact that people need to want to come to work. They have the banter, they have the relationship with their team members. But at the same time, in mortgages, we realized that our mission, what we were doing was helping people through the most significant financial decision in their lives. And so that's the seriousness of it. You know, you have to take it seriously when someone sends you an email. You know, I have this thing of if someone calls me during the day, I will make sure that I've returned every call that day. That's the serious part of what I do. And if I don't return the call, I will send them a text saying, look, it's 9:00 at night. I've just finished meetings, whatever. But at the same time, I often walk around the office because I've been at gym or training or spinning or something and my legs are sore. I'll often be walking around the office in socks, no shoes on. And most of my staff wear Happy Socks. That's not an advert for Happy Socks. Or, you know, I interviewed someone on my podcast recently, John's Crazy Socks. And it's an amazing story of a father and son team who, you know, where he is neurodiverse. The son is neurodiverse, and how the father and son together have built this amazing sock business of happy type socks. And so most of my team wear funky socks every day. Most of us will walk around at some point during the day without shoes on, just because that's the fun environment. We have bean bags in the office. That sounds a bit like Google, but we have bean bags in the office. And so I will walk around most mornings when I'm in the mortgage business. So I spend in 2019, before COVID, I spent about 50% of my time in the mortgage business, 50% of my time as a professional speaker. But in the mortgage business, I will walk around, and I have done for almost 20 years, in the morning, get a cup of coffee, go and sit next to everybody. Now I have the beanbag. So I drag the beanbag behind me and I sit down next to someone. Very deliberate. It's a power thing, by the way. I want to sit lower than them. I don't want to be towering over them, standing at their desk. So I take the beanbag and I sit on the beanbag. They sit on their chair. They're above me. It's a psychological thing dealing with a team. But it's also relaxed. But I'm seriously sitting there and talking to them about, here's your board up, or today we use Trello as an electronic whiteboard, because of lockdowns and COVID and pandemic, where people had to suddenly work from home. They got sick. So we went to an electronic whiteboard system. There's a chapter in my book on my physical system, but we had to go to electronics. But I'll sit with them, I'll say, pull up Trello on your screen. Now let's go through all your clients. What can I do to help you do your job better? Very serious conversation, but I'm sitting in a beanbag on the floor without shoes on. Okay. So it's that we're having a serious conversation. We'll joke, they'll say something. And as a professional speaker, I'll think of, oh yeah, that I saw this comedian who said this joke about that comment that you made, and a bit of lightheartedness, but we'll get back onto the topic of how do we do the best thing for those clients that you're busy dealing with. And so that's how you marry those two.
Yeah, I think it's really important that a sense of humor be in an office. I think if you I think sometimes we can be so serious that what happens is we actually create an environment where people don't want to show up because it becomes too sterile. Do you know what I mean?
Also, PC now, the Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's made people nervous to say things. Mm-hmm. And so even in that environment, you have to create an environment, even in the current Me Too, Me Too, cancel culture, all the other things going on in the world. Just create an environment where it's okay to say things because people trust you and love you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's beautiful. Let's go on to tip number 7. Communication is king. Long live the king.
Oh, absolutely. So the biggest complaint I've ever got as a mortgage broker, this is very, very simple, is, you didn't tell me what was going on in my life. Like I sent you paperwork last Tuesday, and today is Thursday of the following week. I haven't heard from you. And so it came down to very basic things. That is, everybody wants to feel special and everybody wants to be communicated with. I mean, a lot of the work I do today, which is why you see different colored hats and all these different colored boards and things behind me. But a lot of the work I do today is on behavioral styles and communication styles and how you have to communicate with people in ways that they want to be communicated with. It's stuff I learned long after I wrote this book, by the way. But for me, as a basic level in the business, it was make sure that every client gets at least 2 bits of communication every week. And so that means, Jay's mortgage, my staff look at it on a Monday and the bank says they'll come back to you on Thursday. Send Jay a 1-line email. And if Jay's not an email person, send them a text. And if he's not a text person, phone Jay. But communicate and say, hey, Jay, spoke to the bank. We expect an answer on Thursday. I'll come back to you by then. Now, there's 2 levels for the staff there in communication. One is you're communicating, so keeping you in the loop. You feel warm and special. The second one is I'm committing to a timeline of when I will communicate with you again. That's why communication is so important. So it's doing 2 things at the same time. It's making sure. And then obviously on Wednesday, the bank now calls and, hey, Jay, I've got good news. We got an answer a day early. It's upbeat. It's the way you communicate. When I have to phone a client with bad news, and I don't do it much anymore, my staff do it, I will go into the open plan area where all my staff work, and I will make the call from there because it's a good education thing for the team. But I'll always phone a client and tell them, hey, your mortgage got declined, but give them in 99% of cases, I can give them an alternative. And so part of that is the education of my team about communication. It's about don't shy away from the hard calls. Make the hard call, but try and be upbeat and give people an alternative.
I love that. That's beautiful. I'm going to jump ahead to tip 10.
Yeah.
And then if we have time, we'll go back. But tip 10, keep it simple. If it's bite size, you can't choke.
Yeah. So
I love that.
I'm a complex guy because I have 2 master's degrees, but I'm a simple guy in terms of basic things. And so, even today in my consulting work, I work with companies and I say, tell me about your process flow in your organization. And the classic of this was I was working with one of the banks, a 2nd-tier bank in Australia. And I went into their processing team, and they had a poster that would have been 8 foot high by about 6 foot wide, like house plans
Right.
on the wall showing their operations and how a piece of paper flowed through the organization. And I went, you guys are mad. And they went, but we have to. I said, well, how long does it take you to teach that to staff? And they go, weeks of inductions. And I go, surely you can bring that down to one, what I'd call A4, you'd call it letter in America,
Right.
letter size piece of paper. And
Right.
if you can't explain your organization on one piece of paper, it's too complicated.
Right.
And I go back to the words on the back of the book. Business does not have to be complicated. Business can be simple, and so yes, each block might represent a whole other process, but I want to take a new employee and walk them through one page, and by the end of an hour, they understand how the business works. They may not understand the intricate detail, but they understand how the business works. And so just by not overcomplicating things, by keeping things simple, we are so much more efficient in our lives.
Well, you use a couple times in the book that there's analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah.
And it's because we have a tendency to make things so overcomplicated. And I think we got so comfortable with bureaucracy, right? There's so much paperwork and all that if we've lost efficiency.
No, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we're not keeping it simple. And then we overanalyze everything because it's so stinking complicated.
Well, I made the flippant comment right at the beginning about in entrepreneurs with their 27th spreadsheet. It's overthinking it. That's why it says dive in and adjust your course while you're moving. It's make a decision one way or another. Don't sit on the fence. Make a decision, and you can always adjust your course. And you know what? Yes, you go into a business, you lose money, you've learned and you've grown through that. And I've had those in my life. And you move on and you use that experience somewhere else. So it does come down to things like, making financial decisions, but it just is about not making life. I mean, the system that I use now, as I said, using Trello, the software, but we use whiteboards, keeping stuff simple. Just, everyone was telling me from Kaizen principles and, visual management. And I went, walk into the office, you'll see 5 columns, Monday to Friday. And under each column are, Jay's name is on a Monday. And now we've checked up on Jay and he will only get an answer on Thursday. Rub it out on the board and write it under the Thursday column. And it's off your face. It's gone. You don't think about it. And then life is simple. I had staff with 40 files on their desk and they were overwhelmed. Now we break those 40 files into 5 days. That's only 8 files. And they come, they're much better at work because they've only got 8 files on their desk, not 40. So that whole process of simplifying things just makes life great.
Yeah, we just don't do it very well though, Rael.
No, we don't. We think that if we, and a lot of entrepreneurs do that, and we spoke about giving up control and empowering team members. A lot of entrepreneurs think if they hold their cards close to their chest, they hold the power. In fact, the power is being able to empower other people.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love this. I love simplification. I just think that we need and I don't care if you're a small business or a corporation, look for ways to simplify your business. Simplify the processes, simplify it down, make it simple. And you are so right. If you can't explain it in just if you can't explain your business in a few sentences, you're way too complicated.
Yeah. I mean, you often get, meet someone at a networking function and you say, what do you do? And then you hear them take the deep breath. And then they start talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And by the end of the 4th sentence, you've gone, what did they say? And so that's, again, one of the things we teach people is to talk about the why. And I know Simon Sinek said, start with the why. But, when someone says to you, what do? You don't say what you do. You say why you do it. Then you say how you do it. And then they get to the logical question of what do you do? And by then it's a simple 1 sentence to explain it.
That's beautiful. Rael, we've been on an hour. Tell people how they can get a hold of you. Especially to speak or especially speak, how can they get a hold of you?
So railbricker.com, very, very simple. Go to railbricker.com. There's the name again on the bottom of the book. You can get hold of me through LinkedIn. I have a very big following on LinkedIn. You can buy the book on any good online bookstores. You can also buy it off my website. But contact me, send me an email. There are some videos on my YouTube channel of me on stage, sharing ideas, wisdom, and knowledge, I'd like to think. But I learn every time I'm on someone else's stage. So, that's the simplest way of getting hold of me, LinkedIn or through my website, or rail@railbricker.com.
And by the way, folks, Rael is spelled R-A-E-L. Okay, not R-A-I-L, R-A-E-L, and Bricker, B-R-I-C-K, like the brick, plus an E-R at the end.
Yeah.
So make sure that you check him out. You're going to really enjoy him. His work is great. Rael, stay with me, folks. This is the show. You know what I say to you every week, right? You know what? You are in control of two things in your life. That is your attitude and your effort. Take control of those now. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You can always be in control of your attitude. You can choose that. You can choose how much effort you want to give. It's not always easy, but you can do it. I'm going to be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great book. It's going to be another great show. And as I say to you every week, ciao, everybody.